All right, sweet babes.
See ya. Hey everyone, John here. Staff software engineer, 10 plus years of experience, lead maintainer of Latterly.io. And we are working on the perks feature, but that's blocked by Blitz app deprecation. So I need to clean up this pull request, merge the cleaned up work in progress pull request, and then we'll pause this GitHub issue, do perks, and then come back and finish this issue. So the current thing that we're working on, by the way, here's the whole perks feature, number 338. And so that's kind of the background. We want to do perks so that I can brag about Taro and other affiliated sites like BrandGhost. And here's a promo code for BrandGhost. There will be a whole page of it's like, this is the perks feature. So there will be a whole page of these discount codes. It's a discount for you, and it's helps support the site. So this is what we're implementing, a perks feature. But as I say, to do that, I need to merge this work in progress pull request. So the current task in front of us is after the user logs in, there is a case where we need to consume a refresh token and refresh the page. So that's what we're doing today. Okay, so first I'll just reproduce the issue. User 582, any good diagram to embed into Confluence or Design Docs? Hop on Code Forces, what's up, you good? Diagram to embed into Confluence or Design Docs. I just do images. So you can do an ERD or whatever you want. You can use Mermaid. You can do a Mermaid diagram. You can use Excalidraw. Love me some Excalidraw. You can do a programmatic ERD. So Python ERD generator. Yeah, Erdantic is an example. And then once your diagram is ready, I just take an image. It could be a screenshot or something like that, and then you can put that in Confluence. I think you're going to have a hard time if you want to find something where like you're editing the Confluence doc and you put the Mermaid text directly into Confluence. There might be like a Confluence extension if you want to do all that. I think it's much simpler to just go for the images, and it's more flexible. You can change your tools whenever you want, right? Crypto, thanks for the follow. Crypto Drew Streams, thank you for the follow. That's awesome, thanks. Very welcome, good question. Okay, let's get into this code. Right, so I pulled up localhost. And I want to sign in with, so let me log out. And then I want to try signing in two ways. One, I'll do the Google Auth. I think this works fine. And there's no, so I'm logged in and there's no like token hanging around. So now let me log out. Now, if I can remember my password, 1 second, let me look this up. Okay. So I log in with my password. And notice here, this is the issue. It still doesn't know that I'm logged in. Now, if I manually refresh the page, I did log in. A session was created and so forth. But I need to refresh the UI on the non-social login. Okay, so I log in. Here I am on the login page. Let's find the code for that. Control P, login page. And there are two versions. There's the Blitz app and the non-Blitz app. I'm going to the non-Blitz app. All right. This is the login page, and there should be a form here. Am I looking right at it and not seeing it? Yeah, I think so. Okay, there it is. This is the problem with streaming like near midnight. Okay, so here's the form. This is where we log in. And I want to generate a query string. Here's handle submit. That's going to call the server action to sign in. Here, I'm setting redirect to false. Maybe that's what I should change. So this is using next auth, authentication library. Rev says stack. Yeah, we're using next auth, and so that would be with Next.js. So in web development, the #1 most popular framework is Next.js. Employers love it, so I recommend it. Latterly is oriented around getting you a job. So we're going to tell you to learn React and learn Next.js. And that's basically the stack. This is on top of Node.js, so it's a JavaScript server, if you're not familiar. This is actually using TypeScript, but TypeScript is just JavaScript with types. You can see a type signature here. Thanks for being here. If it's interesting, oh, we already got over 100 likes. Thank you so much. You can still throw some more on there if you want. Thank you for being here. Hope you'll follow the channel. Okay. So this router.refresh doesn't solve the issue. I would think it solves the issue. I can do some breakpoints. Oh, well, I'm refreshing after I push, so that's not going to work, is it? Let me try. I wonder if I can just switch the order there. That probably won't fix it, but I would love if that's the whole stream. Error occurred during authentication. Data persistence using Postgres with Supabase. You love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. Just use Postgres. Yo, I think that worked. Look, it says that I'm logged in. Let me log out. I'm going to clear my local storage. Empty cache and hard reload. We're going to redo that test with a fresh local storage and fresh cache. And let me keep my eye on the server. I'm somewhat disconcerted that I saw an issue at one moment. Yeah, see, that one didn't work. But if I refresh, it's good. So I think I want to move forward with my I want to move forward with my other approach. If the result is okay. So why do I redirect false? I think it's because I want them to stay on the same page if there was an error. Let's bring up Composer. So we're using cursor here. So I'm going to reset Composer, and we're just going to talk about the login form. I would like the user to remain on the login page if there is an authentication error. Does it make sense to redirect false in the sign-in method and handle the result myself? Or is there a next auth native solution? Okay, so cursor's confirming that this does make sense. Have you made an e-commerce site before? Yeah, I mean, I've worked at Amazon. So that's, you know, an e-commerce site of some note. Over 1,000 likes. Y'all rock. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. I specialize in fintech. So I worked at Upstart. I currently work at a fintech called Guideline.com, a wonderful fintech unicorn that lets me work remotely where I'm a staff engineer. Zachary, thanks for the follow. So yes, very familiar with finance, banking. I worked at Capital One, right? So finance, banking, e-commerce, my bread and butter. Latterly had a store. So Latterly is open source, and it had a store, but no one bought anything, so I removed it. Let me know if you want to buy stuff. Latterly still uses Stripe. So if you want to book a call, boom, opens up Stripe. By the way, you can book a call with me for $80 if you want one-on-one. You do whatever you want with it. Resume review, career mentorship, help you solve a technical problem. It's a general use time slot. Do you prefer C# or Java? No, I don't. Neither. Java Spring is like more than 10 years old. You can check out Kotlin. Kotlin's going to be the way to go today. C#, I don't enjoy programming with C#. I'm using TypeScript. So I'm using TypeScript, so you could infer that I prefer TypeScript. And one of the reasons for that will be that TypeScript is a truly full stack isomorphic language. I can share types, schemas, code between the server and the front end. Should I stop using Entity Framework in C# for web dev? No, I wouldn't say stop. If you have experience with it and if you enjoy it, keep using it, right? So the advice to someone who has an existing skill set is very different than the advice to someone who's brand new to coding. If you're brand new to coding, I'm not going to recommend you start with C# and the Entity Framework. No way. I'm not going to recommend you start with Spring Boot. Not a chance. It's what I have to use for college. Then use it, bro. You should absolutely you should pass your course. Pass your course, and if you find yourself graduating and you find yourself comfortable with the skills they gave you, great. Go get a job. Have a great life. I'm happy for you. Down the road, you probably want to pick up some additional skills. I think it's great. If you're learning Java in college, 2 years into your career, pick up Kotlin. Great move. Great move. Is this React Native? No, I'm not doing a mobile app here. This is a web app, so it's just React, just Next.js. Don't start with C#, start with Rust. That's a joke. You shouldn't really do that. What made you do a PhD in economics? Have you gone to college at all? So what made you go to college at all? The motivation for most people to go to college, including myself, is to land a job, to earn money, to have a career. And when I went to college, I said, I don't really know what I want to do, but I want something that will help me earn money and understand how to use money. So I went for economics. That's the reason I went for economics. Why did I get the master's degree? It was a smart choice in my career. I was working as a consultant in the Beltway, and I could have a better career with a master's degree. Then why did I go for the PhD? Because I wanted to change policy for the country. So I moved from Texas to the DC area where I now live. So I was involved in policy for a while, and then I switched into tech, much better in tech. To be honest, I hate the Entity Framework in Razor. That's why I asked what I should look into. Yeah, I think you should. I'll just repeat for the 5th time. I think you should look into Next.js. I think you should look into Next.js, but I think you should do that after you are done with your class or whatever. Like, don't let it throw off college, right? Are you rich? Well, I'm a happy person with a, I eat well. I have a decent house, decent cars, family I love, 3 dogs. What does rich mean? I mean, I'm a happy person. Was the switch hard in terms of pivoting careers, or the PhD helped? I switched careers before I completed the PhD. But definitely analytical thinking helps in software engineering. And my PhD is on the economics of boot camps, basically. That's like a simplification, but it makes the relevance to tech really, really clear. So yes, the PhD in economics is absolutely related, even to what we're doing today. Why did I start Latterly? Created Latterly as a way to share best practices for people to land a job. And my PhD is on the economics of the labor market. So I understand what employers want. Understanding what employers want helps you get a job. So there's a very strong connection there. I've always been confused on how things like the MERN stack work together to build something, since for me in Razor, the front end and back end is almost all wrapped into one package. Yeah, I could unpack that for you. I mean, it's just a very, very different topic than what I'm trying to do right now. I think you're asking a question about networking, basically. Maybe you don't realize that, but how does the MERN stack build something? Because you have a front end that can communicate with a back end over the network, and the back end connect to a database over another network connection. So it's a 3-step system design. Do you like SQL? Yeah, SQL's great. I like Postgres in particular. Thanks for the questions, chat. Over 2,000 likes. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the follow, Y. Thank you for the follow, Y. Cool name. Evocative name. Okay, let's get into some code. By the way, all of this is saved onto YouTube, so my live streams are persisted on YouTube. You can check the link in the bio to see this and other live coding, open source development, leak code, all kinds of stuff. Career advice, soft skill development, guest interviews, the works. So let's talk with Cursor. There's an issue where after successful login, the UI is not properly re-rendered with a populated authentication state. So I'd like to add a query string, query parameter. Parameter, I misspelled that. I'd like to add a query parameter after login 6. Oh, you know what? I'm about to ask Cursor this, but I think it's really obvious. I think it's on this router push. Yeah, something like that. Query is not the right thing to do. Object literal is not there. Okay, let me undo this. I'll let Cursor take care of it, but I expect that router push gets updated. So I'd like to add a query parameter after login succeeds so that when the user loads the home page at the /URL, I'm just going to be really explicit. We're talking to a language model. Just make it really explicit. A806, thank you for the follow. Do you talk any politics on YouTube? Not really. I mean, I can if there's a big demand for it. I have some other content creators where on other channels, we may start doing streams. I think we'll do a stream later this month on their channel, not on mine. If you go back like way in my really old videos, I do have a video that's like how to become a political consultant, something like that. But I really haven't touched that stuff in like over 5 years. Also on TikTok, I have my Latterly channel, which is tech focused, and then I have a Less Techie John. I'll bring that up on the screen. Is it Less Techie John, Less Techie Vanderveer? Yeah, this. So you can follow this TikTok channel, and there's some jokes, there's some religious stuff, there's some music, and there's a little bit of politics. So feel free to check that out. It's kind of just like a miscellaneous dump of less techie stuff. So for most web dev jobs, do they still ask leak code style questions? The answer is no. This is an interesting question and answer. The tech content online from creators, including myself, would lead you to believe that leak code is essential, or the majority of jobs require it, or something like this. The truth is, tier 1 jobs require this. FANG companies, Google, Facebook, and so on. And these tier 1 jobs are extremely lucrative. So there's a lot of demand for passing those interviews. And that is why there's so much content creation on the topic. But tier 1 jobs are also a minority of jobs. Most software engineering jobs are tier 2 or tier 3. And in these markets, which are the majority of the engineering jobs, particularly for web development, LeetCode style questions are under proportionately represented. So you'll still get technical coding questions, but they tend to be either practical or particularly you're asking about web dev, particularly involving the specific web development technologies that you'll be working with at that job. So if you were to apply to Facebook, it varies by role. They have different interview loops depending on role. Your mileage may vary, but in the vast majority of cases, you will be asked an algorithm question. You will not be asked to implement something using the Angular library. But in a tier 2 or tier 3 company, for a web development role where Angular is a required skill, there's a fair chance that they will directly ask you about Angular instead of testing you on the abstract. Does that make sense? Apple user, thanks for the follow. Loud says, what are good technical questions I could expect? I'm a full stack in training. It depends on your target companies. So if you're full stack, then you're probably not targeting FANG. They do hire full stack, but they tend to hire back-end engineers. I would recommend the Latterly LeetCode Kata for LeetCode style questions. I just released a video on this, by the way. So Latterly LeetCode Kata, blog article number 3. And these are the data structures and algorithms that I recommend you study. I've contributed extensive thought leadership to LeetCode interview preparation. Okay, so I wrote the 5 to 23 patterns article that's like pretty well known. Like I wrote this years ago. So that's for LeetCode. So that's for your tier 1 stuff. For tier 2 and tier 3, you want to build projects, you want to have a portfolio. You need to know JavaScript fundamentals. So you'll need to know what are the data structures in JavaScript. You don't necessarily need to know the abstract data structures. You don't need to know what a hash map is, but you do need to know what a JavaScript object is and what a JavaScript array is. And why would you want to use an array or an object? What are the primitives? String. You're going to want to know about falsy values, which is a specific JavaScript thing. The difference between undefined and null. There's some nice to haves, like nullish coalescing is a really fancy thing. You can know about that, but it's not required. Differences, different ways to declare variables and functions. Var, let, const, what are their differences? Scoping in this keyword is going to be a fundamental JavaScript concept. So what's the difference between an ES5 function declaration and an ES6 arrow function is going to be important. What does chaining mean? What does optional chaining mean? In your HTML and CSS, including HTML practices around SEO and accessibility. So what's an ARIA tag? How do forms work? I think if you can take care of those things that I just mentioned there, you'll be prepared for the majority of roles. Knowing some of the common libraries, you're going to need to know React. You're going to need to know React. And you'll pretty much be good to go. You'll pretty much be good to go at that point. There's obviously many more things you could study, but I think you'll be good to go at that point. I saw a question about creating a debouncing function. That completely threw me off. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that the first time you see it, it's like, what are you talking about? But like the third time you see it, it's a pretty mundane thing. It's like if people are submitting to your website over and over and over, you want to rate limit that so they don't overwhelm your server. Yeah, debouncing is a common technique. There's many pre-built components, like material components for this. It's a good question, really. It's a good question. And I'm not surprised that it threw you off the first time you ran into it. One of the ways to get over that problem is to play the numbers game. So don't get your heart set on a single company. There's a good chance, particularly as an early career individual, that you're going to run into weird things. And so what you should do is you should play the numbers game. If you have 20 interviews, most of the interviews will be common topics. And so that's the way that you get a job, is you prepare for the common topics and then you brute force it, and you will identify gaps. You solve those gaps, just don't make the same mistake twice. Mistakes are a good thing. Mistakes are how you learn. So don't feel shaken if you run into an interview and they ask you something unexpected. It's going to happen. Count on it. Just count on it. And if you can learn something from that interview loop, it's a success. Your definition of success should not be getting an offer when you walk into an interview. Your definition of success should be to grow your network and learn something. And then if you get an offer, that's icing on the cake. You will get an offer from the job search. You can expect that, but don't expect to get a job offer for every particular interview. That's extremely unlikely. So that's how you solve the job search. I'm overthinking and studying about everything. Yeah, I discourage that. I think you should study to a level of sufficiency so that you're prepared for the job search. Then go on the job search and recognize that it's like a 60-40 thing. That as an early career individual, maybe 40% of your interviews, you'll get asked something you didn't know about, and then fill in that gap using the interview as a diagnostic tool to identify the gap. As opposed to trying to master JavaScript and learn all of the concepts, learn the HTML5 spec, and learn ES 2020, 2021, 234, their variations. You're just not going to learn it. File reader API, there's so much ridiculous stuff. Local storage, session storage, you don't need to know all that stuff. Have you ever heard of the DOM? Yes, that is an essential thing. And if you go through the Latterly, so you sign up at Latterly, sign up for free, go through the standard checklist. Video, item 3, the trial by fire, you'll be dealing with the DOM. So the DOM is a web development fundamental. It's how websites are built. You definitely need to know about the DOM. Thanks so much for the questions, y'all. Does your course have training on SQL for data analyst or data scientist? No. Latterly does not train on data analyst or data scientist today. For the perks feature, so I can recommend exactly, let's see. Yeah, Data Expert IO, you can check this out. Data Camp. So if you want to study data analysis, data engineering, not really data science, not really getting into the statistics or the modeling or anything, but really good for data engineering, you can check out Data Camp and dataexpert.io, and you can use promo code John20 and you get a 20% discount there. So this is a creator that I know, really great guy, former Airbnb engineer, Zach, what's his last name? I don't know. Zach something. Wilson. Yeah. So he'll teach you about data analysis and data engineering. He doesn't really get into data science. I also recommend Springboard. So this is kind of what the perks page is meant to do is, hey, if Latterly doesn't offer something, here are the affiliated tools that we recommend and we partner with. Do you know SQL though? Yeah, I know SQL pretty well. Any good courses you can recommend on Taro? So many. My favorite course on Taro, there are 2. One is the offer negotiation. Man, totally worth it. Totally worth it. And then the other is the onboarding course. The complete onboarding guide for software engineers. So good. Alex and Rahul are both really great guys. They're really great guys. Realistically, how much about software did you know when you graduated from undergrad? 0, because I got an undergraduate degree in economics. Do you know what a deferred revenue is? Yeah, sure. In what context? Are you getting a deferred revenue offer? I would avoid that. Unless you're talking about an internship, then maybe it's okay. But for a non-internship role, that would be a very strange situation, kind of a red flag, basically a red flag. E. Collins just says accounting. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean. So if you're just referring to the accounting concept of deferred revenue, yeah, sure. Pretty far afield of today's topic. Okay, let's get into this code. So after successful login, the UI is not properly re-rendered. I'd like to add a query parameter after login succeeds so that when the user loads the homepage at the /URL, Emil John Tobis, thank you so much for the follow. Thanks for being here. The homepage can consume the query parameter and refresh the page. Okay, so notice that I'm prompting the composer here, but I already have in mind expected results or expected solutions. And there are 2 of them. One is that it could alter this result block. And then 2 is that it would alter this push block. So I'm asking the language model, but I already have the solution in mind. That's going to be key to avoid being duped, avoid being deceived by the language model. If the language model just hallucinates and tells you something ridiculous, how can we spot that? We want to have some idea of what's going to happen before we even talk to it. So language models are really good for taking your natural language implementation and moving it into code. They're really bad for, I don't actually have an implementation, natural language or otherwise. I just kind of have a problem, like magically help me solve it. That's going to be a world of pain. So you actually want to have a pretty good idea of what you want to do. And then if you don't know the syntax, that's fine. Let it handle the syntax. But you want to be able to test, validate, peer review, verify what the language model does. And you can see it did what I expected. So that's absolutely fine. Login success equals true. I'll accept it. I'm going to change the name to refresh current user. Refresh current user is true. Now I'll drag in the top right nav to the composer context. This is Control I in cursor to bring this composer view up. How do you say that? Chunowitz. Thanks for the follow. Topological sort, question mark? Yeah, love it. Love topological sort. So you can go to my YouTube channel, link is in the bio. I just did a topological sort problem like yesterday. So go to the live streams and you can see course schedule, topological sort, BFS. You can check out that video. Where did you learn data structures and algorithms? My camera is frozen. Oh no. Thanks for the heads up. I'll just... Let's see. Let's see if I can get this camera back up and running. Are we good now? Oh no, look at my face. Okay, I'll just go with no camera for now. Thanks for the note. Sorry about that. Bummer. I'll have to figure out why it did that. Where did you learn data structures and algorithms from? Basically from LeetCode. I mean, it's a long story. Look, so you do the blind 75, you do the neat code 150. There's the 5 to 20. There's the patterns article, Sean Prashad. Sean Prashad LeetCode patterns, right? I actually contributed to his collection. So he has like 13 or 14 patterns. Yeah, so there's the 14 patterns article from well, this says it's from Fahim, but it's really from Prashad. Anyway, and then I extended that to make the 5 to 23 patterns article. I think I link it here. Okay, so he just has the tool. He doesn't actually have an article. That's fine. So his tool has these 14 patterns, and then I guess other people wrote about it. That's basically my journey. Then I came up with the 5 to 23 as a teaching tool because people were getting intimidated by having to do 75 problems or 14 patterns. So I lowered the barrier to entry, and then I even scaled beyond the industry standard bar, and that's basically like how I came up with my approach. And then that became the Latterly LeetCode kata, because you have the 5 patterns, but what are the actual problems for those patterns? And so the Latterly LeetCode kata gives you 12 problems to start with. Brendan says, what are you building? I see your lives all the time. Are you a software engineer? Yes, I am. And I'm building Latterly, latterly.io. Open source website. How did you find the pivot from econ to coding? Was it hard at first? No, I don't think it was. For me, it was not hard. I mean, your mileage may vary, but for me, when I started coding, it was so much fun that I like immediately wanted to pivot into software engineering. How much experience do you have? About 11 years. About 11 years of experience. How about you? Okay, so I have dragged in the top nav right component to cursor, composer, and now I'm bringing in the top nav, yeah, and now I'm going to say I renamed the query param to refresh current user, update the top nav right component to inspect to inspect whether the value is true, use a lowercase check. If the param is present, remove it from the URL, then refresh the page. If the param is present with a value of true. I think that's clear enough. Does your website support localization? Not at the moment. It's open source though. Feel free to submit a pull request. Okay, so it wants to use an effect. How do we feel about this? Yes, I feel good. This is a side effect, this logic that we're talking about. That makes sense? Cool. Now here, this doesn't appear to be using a lowercase check. That's okay. We can just assume it's always downcase. That's fine. This router is here unnecessarily. Do we want to use the next router or, yeah, I mean, it seems fine, but let's just double check. Is it a better practice to use or the next router? I also find myself doing mini code reviews every time I ask AI to fix something for me. You should. You need to think critically about what the AI is saying. Don't just assume it's correct. It's a good thing to be doing the mini code reviews. So now it's saying to use router. Okay, then I'll say update the code to use router. Would you rather be in big tech or a startup? Everyone said you learn more at a startup. I like them both. I don't know that you learn more. You learn different. So at a startup, you're going to have much more autonomy. You'll be learning a larger breadth of skills. And you'll be learning highly transferable skills because startups typically don't over-specialize in their tech stack. In big tech, you are not going to learn a large breadth of skills. You're going to learn fewer skills very, very deeply. And you're going to specialize more because these big tech companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and so on, they have internal implementations and special implementations where they do a thing their own special way. And you have to do it that way because the enterprise has defined it this way. And all of the systems are coupled to this approach. So you're going to learn that approach very, 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 very deeply. And you will not see that at a startup. So for example, and you'll hear people talk about like the Google way or the Amazon way. And this is not like a made up thing. There are very technical, specific ways that you have, as an engineer, that you have to do these things at these companies. So you're learning quite a bit. You're going to learn quite a bit, but you're going to learn quite a bit about how Google does business or how Amazon does engineering. So I would say that you learn differently, not that you learn less. Would you consider teaching a university level course? If so, what class? Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah. That does become the question, what to do then, right? So I could do, if it was going to be economics, it would need to be like 101 or something. Because I don't have many years of teaching experience, I wouldn't want to dive into, teaching other doctoral students or something like that. I would want to do like Econ 101, macro, micro, principles, any of those. I could do intro to political science, and then I could do something like web development, any of those. It would be more around, for me, I would be happy to teach any of those. I just don't know if I would find a teaching role that would like treat me and pay me adequately. So, I mean, one of the reasons I left academia is just like teachers, like professors don't make good money, and it's a skewed distribution, right? So a few professors make very good money. Some professors they're very happy with their life. Some are so predisposed that even with low compensation, they're still happy because they just don't value money that much. They value teaching and research and so forth. And I do value those things. I do one-on-one mentorships. Actually, I wrapped up a mentorship just today. It's really fulfilling. But I have my limits. And when you see how much you can earn at certain companies, for me, on balance, it's more attractive than the life of the professor, in particular, considering the bureaucracy of academic research. So I don't know if any of you are in academic research as opposed to data science in tech companies, which is quite different. But in academic research, there's quite a heavy bureaucracy, and getting grants is such a pain. Getting grants is such a pain. And getting all the approvals. I once surveyed people, and I had to get cleared by the by an IRB. And I forget, it was either the FDA or the HHS, because surveying these people was considered to be doing human experiment. Do you remember what a production possibility frontier curve is in economics? Absolutely. Gotta love it. It's a great mental model. Nice, I see the conventional commits. There you go. Gotta love it. I always wonder if individuals who are so advanced remember the basics. Yeah, I mean, sometimes yes and sometimes no. You could probably find some basics that I've forgotten. But the production possibility frontier is not an ordinary basic. It's a strong mental model. And so those sorts of things that once you adopt the economic mindset, that you're not going to lose that sort of a thing because you're thinking about it every day. Even if you're not teaching economics or whatever, you're using this mental model every day, and you won't lose that sort of thing. Brendan, thank you for the follow. Okay, so Composer has proposed to use this router now. Let's accept this and review. So we're using the router. We are getting the current user. The menu context, that's like an existing thing. That's fine. It's whether the dropdown is open. And if we should refresh the current user, then we create a new query, which is all of the existing query parameters less refresh current user. Great. Then we replace the router. I'm not sure why this has an undefined. Let's look at this. As it's a mask. The shallow true option ensures the page doesn't fully reload. Let's see. I'm not sure if that's good. If it re-renders the UI, I'm happy. Okay. And then refresh the current user. I'm not sure we need to do that either. All right, let's test this. We may remove the shallow. We may remove this line. But let's test this first. Next router was not mounted. I've seen this before. Let's see. I might need to use next navigation. Cannot destructure property as it is undefined. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so router.query does not exist on the app router. Yeah, so we need to use next navigation, but further, it has a different API. Okay, so I need to tell Cursor my versions. I'm using a new version of next.js with the app router, so we should not access query params through next router. Use search params, that's right. This is Cursor. Yep, we're using Cursor. Cool. So we're just going to remove shallow. Looks good to me. I'm not sure we need this refresh line, but let's try to test. All right, so here we are. Let's log out. Looks like it refreshed to me. That was really quick. I might need to run a debugger. So let me breakpoint here. Oh, that's Python. Debugger. Okay, you can see here we paused the debugger before consuming the token out of the URL, and the query param is there as we expect, right? And the value, I can inspect it here, it's true. So we are going to move into this block, and let me set another breakpoint right over here. Set that other breakpoint, we'll play to it, boom. And the URL isn't replaced yet. So that's going to happen after the tick. Boom. We pause again. 3, 4 times. I wonder why. We could figure out why it's re-rendering, but it's just going to be a matter of like which components need to be updated. It's determining how many re-renders. So this looks good to me, and now if I look at my user session, now I have it, right? So here's my result data, and it has my email. But I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think that that's necessary. So let me comment this refresh, get rid of my debugger, empty cache, hard reload, and go ahead and clear local storage. And I just want to see let me log out. Okay. And I just want to see that the process works fine with this line being commented. So we'll log in. Ooh, what's that about? Did I type something wrong? Oh, okay, something wrong was on my clipboard. Sorry about that. Ah, very interesting. Dev, do employers care? For US students, do non-technical classes matter? If I get a C in Spanish because I'm focused on web dev, do employers do not care that you got a C in Spanish. Employers do not care. No problem at all. Good question. Okay, so this actually uncovered an issue. And that's interesting because it highlights the fact that I don't need to refresh the page. Okay, so we do need to refetch. I am pretty surprised by that. Let's see. What else could be going on? I'm happy to refetch if I need to. I am just really surprised. Current user query. So the first time I get this current user, it's going to be an incorrect session. Is that what I understand? So let's log in. Yeah, current user is 0. So it's getting the current user before I even change pages. And I'm on current user 0. Wow, okay. Let's see. Am I making network calls? No, it's using the cached value. Got it. Okay. So it's using a cached value, and that is why my session is stale. So I do need to forcibly refetch. I'm surprised by that, but cool, not a problem. We proved it. Cool. One last one for kicks. Look at that, good to go. Do you find TRPC easier to use developer experience wise versus like a REST API on Express or something? I think it's about equal. So you can get an Express server going really easily. You can get Express server going really easily. But a basic REST API on Express doesn't have the types. We love TRPC because of the types. The types do make things easier in some ways. It makes it easier to debug, development, IntelliSense. But it also makes it harder in some ways because you need to write the types, you know? So I would say it's better than a basic Express server, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's easier. But I would say it's higher quality, it's better, I like it more, I prefer it. I would say all those things. Does that make sense? But it does take more setup, especially if you like setting up a basic Express server is like, it doesn't get much simpler than that. So what is this? The feature is refresh, or like refetch. Refresh session after login. So now we can come over here to our pull request, flip it into ready for review. Wait for the checks to pass and we'll merge this momentarily. Jask, thank you so much for sharing the live. Brendan says, I've only ever used Express, but at my current job, there's RPC everywhere. So TRPC makes much more sense now. Cool. Yeah, our remote procedure calls, they're isomorphic to REST. It's like a slightly different way of thinking about it, but not really. Like everything that you do in an RPC, you could coerce to REST if you want to. Just a different implementation. I like TRPC not because it's RPC over REST. I like TRPC because I get my types. I get my types and I can easily debug and I can control click in my IDE. So like here I am in the UI, right? And like here's my API client and I can just control click and it jumps me over to the right service. Like that's awesome. That's super awesome. So that's why I like TRPC. Cool, build passed. Good, now we are clear in the next stream to implement the perks page. Hey, thanks so much for being here, everyone. Oh, Kadangu from YouTube. Hello, mister. Hey, thanks for being here on YouTube. Follow the page for the next stream where we will get into implementing the perks page similar to Taro perks. So the next one will be much more UI